Grand Rising. It's been a while, but I'm up early, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop this real quick. You dig? Like, share, subscribe, donate if you will. I appreciate it. Foundation. This is part 28. Welcome back to the Reading Cipher. I haven't been gone. I've just been working overtime, making jewelry, helping families move. Um, we got candles as well. Just really doing a lot, and studying tax lien investing. I'm doing a lot, and I have to because I'm obligated to make sure that I succeed. Um, but let's get started with part 28 of my favorite book. Yeah, ain't nothing changed. We still on it. Foundations as vehicles of social engineering. Foundations, in a number of instances, can become the vehicle for the restructuring of important social institutions. The newly restructured or created institutions may themselves become vehicles for the transmission and ultimate institutionalization of ruling class interests into the cultural sphere. Thus, the ruling elite, in effect, through its foundations, mounts a cultural war against alternative and competitive ideologies by attempting to shape and delimit intellectual discourse in academia and in the larger society. Family, I need y'all to listen. Do y'all hear what he's saying? He's just letting you know that media, particularly the news, the podcasts, and stuff. For instance, I got something for you. There was a black woman that died in Kabul. I believe her name was Shanquella Jackson. May she rise in power. And I've seen multiple videos. I've seen so many disruptive comments. And what I mean by that, there's so many people not really reading into the story to find out the truth. They're just commenting. There's so many people frustrated. They don't even care if they chastise an innocent bystander, right? There was a gentleman that was accused of being involved in that, right? Who arrived almost exactly 24 hours after the first group of people arrived. One, check. Two, I only seen one video, but I heard there's two videos. And in both videos, there are women accosting the deceased queen. Now, my issue, I got big issue with everything that happened to her. But I got an issue to pick with everyone that's trying to point out this guy as if he's the one. Like, they put their information, on the internet, like the mother's information, where they live, and all of those things, and they getting constant threats. But if this man came 24 hours later, 15, 20 minutes before she was announced unresponsive, was holding her head, trying to comfort her, you can't blame that on him. Whatever happened to her happened before him. That's the reason why he's not running. He didn't have a reason to run because he didn't do anything. And I got a even larger feeling. Had he been there, it wouldn't have happened. Yes, I do believe the young man that's being accused of having something to do with it. People don't even want to do the homework. They don't even want to look and see what's going on. They told you that she died within that 24 hours of arriving. He didn't get there till like 10, 15, 20 minutes prior to her death. That means that anything that happened before he got there, he was unaware of, and he ain't had nothing to do with. So stop pointing out that man. There's a guy on YouTube that's just harassing him. What's crazy is everybody that's threatening them gonna fuck around and get sued. Yeah, liable, defamation of character. Yeah, you can't be going around and saying somebody did X, Y, and Z and you ain't got no proof. Y'all know that they're gonna do an investigation, and when they do, you know what's really gonna be interesting? His fucking itinerary that stated when he got there. Y'all out here, man, casting this man. Now everybody else, I ain't got nothing against you going in on or whatever, but it's an order of things how you do things. You do things with respect and order. That man had nothing to do with that. Period. Now everybody else that was there was there. And if you didn't prevent it, you participated, fam. Yeah, you participated. And the reason I'm saying all of that is you got to stop watching what people say that this is what it is. You have to remember the facts and you have to do your own critical thinking. Like, dang, if this woman died within 24 hours and basically she died within 10, 15 minutes of him getting there, he couldn't have had anything to do with it. So why is the internet going crazy about him and not about, number one, the two women that assaulted her? Let's go there, because those are the people that really had something to do with this. But even more so, I heard the mother say that one of the guys that's on the run came with the two girls to her house and brought her daughter's luggage to her and said that it was alcohol poisoning and that they sorry. I don't think that those women necessarily meant for that woman's life to end. But anytime you put your hands on somebody, and remember this, if nobody ever told you, you don't know what that punch, kick, or whatever you're doing gonna do to that person. You can kill a person with a punch. You don't put your hands on nobody unless you have to. That's not what you do. You don't want nobody putting their hands on you. And all y'all out there chastising this young man that had nothing to do with what was going on. How would you feel if your son was in those shoes and he came 24 hours later and when he arrived, that's what was going on? And then somebody put your info out on the internet for everybody to see. And they getting calls and threats and people pulling up on them. And man, somebody could lose their life. More people could lose their life just because of that. You running up on people, you don't know if they got it on them or not. You can't be doing that, man. We got to be critical thinkers. Yes, it's a very sad situation what happened to that queen, and my condolences to her family and loved ones and friends. And out of that group of people that went there, the only friend that I could see was the young man that got there 24 hours later. Because if any of them were her friends, that shit wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't have happened on my watch. I don't think it would have happened on any person who cares, especially when you go on. When we go out together, y'all know the rule. If we leave together, we come back together. You don't allow nobody to do that, man. You don't want nobody doing that to your daughter or son. I'm gonna get back into the reading, but pay attention to what he's saying, because what he's saying is, I'm gonna read it again, because what he's saying is, yo, basically the people that's in power, they got systems set up so that they can try to influence the behavior and the thinking of regular people. Like I just said, the media has allowed people to say certain stuff. It's so amazing. You can't say nothing about certain things, but you could almost say anything about Black people. Yeah. Everybody in the world should be sued. You shouldn't. You should have to run it by an elite of Black people. When it comes to white supremacy, it shouldn't even be a government agency that's full of white people or anything. Nope. It should be full with Black people, because ain't nobody else been more so affected. None. Yeah. Need their own governing authority that overrides the FBI, that overrides the CIA, all of that. Why? Because the same white supremacists have infiltrated every single one of those factions of the executive branch, judicial branch, and legislative branch of law. Yes. So let me continue. I'm going to read it again because I want you to hear what he said. Foundations as vehicles of social engineering. Social engineering is another word that can be used for manipulating. Okay. Foundations, in a number of instances, can become the vehicle for the restructuring of important social institutions. Oh, we're going to redefine what woman is. No, the fuck you're not. No. Woman has been woman since the beginning of time. Man has been man since the beginning of time. Get used to it, accept it, embrace it. That's what it is. Leave it there. Period. The newly restructured or created institutions may themselves become vehicles for the transmission and ultimate institutionalization of ruling class interests into the cultural sphere. Thus, the ruling elite, in effect, though its foundations mounts a cultural war against alternative and competitive ideologies by attempting to shape and delimit intellectual discourse in academia and the larger society. Foundations using their funding mechanisms may seek not to only change the types of questions academia and the general populace may ask and the issues they may perceive as important, but also the methods by which these questions and issues are confronted. We must note that method and technique are not value free or politically neutral. Marcuse speaks to this issue when he asserts that the very concept of technical reason is perhaps ideological. Not only the application of technology, but technology itself, its domination, methodical, scientific, calculated, calculating control, specific purposes and interests of domination are not foisted upon technology subsequently, and from the outside, they enter the very construction of the technical apparatus. Technology is always a historical social project, and it is projected what a society and its ruling interests intend to do with men and things. The story of how the Ford Foundation transformed the focus and methodology of political science is a case point in demonstrating the impact large foundations can have on academic and public discourse and opinion. Peter Siebold, I believe that's how you pronounce it, outlines the process beginning with the following observation. Before World War II, the field of political science had focused either on the formal operation of government institutions or on the moral and ethical issues of government policy. By 1960, its attention was riveted on voting patterns. The lone scholar sitting in a library examining the details of a state constitution or philosophizing on the morality of legislator actions was replaced by a team of survey researchers who sought to understand the electoral choices of American voters through the use of random samples and questionnaire surveys. This transformation became known as the Behavioral Revolution. In a little more than 10 years, the whole foundation of political science was altered as behavioralists came to dominate the major journals and departments in the field. Traditional scholarship was brushed aside, labeled as too philosophical and abstract, and therefore unable to meet the task of scientifically understanding modern political behavior. The victory was so complete that in 1961, the American Political Science Review published what amounted to an official declaration of victory by Robert Dahl, a leading behavioralist, entitled The Behavioral Approach to Political Science, Epitaph for a Movement to a Successful Protest. A crucial factor that determined the intellectual complexion of post-World War II political analysis was the institutional leverage exercised by the foundation as a representative of the interests of the corporate elite. The rise to prominence of the political behavior approach did not signal the victory of a particular perspective in the marketplace of ideas. Rather, it demonstrated the very significant influence that institutional support by major foundations can have on the production of ideas in our society. The behavioral revolution referred to above was not primarily the result of spontaneous internal changes in the attitudes of political scientists, the development of academic schools of thought, or of changes in political science research technique. The revolution was deliberately engineered by external forces. These forces sought to determine the primary or principal determinant of what questions are considered important by the discipline and what methods are used to research these questions. Seaboy goes on to demonstrate that the behavioralist revolution in the American political science establishment was largely the product of the Ford Foundation's efforts to restructure political science to meet the needs of the economic elite. From this perspective, the triumph of the behavioralist in political science was not principally the result of the mood of social scientists, nor was it the result of the development by behavioralists of a more accurate portrait of how the system operates. Rather, it was a consequence of the operation of social forces in the larger political economy as mediated by the Ford Foundation. The Ford Foundation, as a major institutional representative of the ruling elite, whose major concern is to preserve the stability of the American class race, status quo, and institutional social order, sought to define the agenda for social research. The role of the Ford Foundation in this process was to identify actual and potential threats to the status quo and address them with a program of political research which would aid the struggle to maintain political stability. By what means did the Ford Foundation accomplish the behavioralist revolution? There were a number of well thought out approaches designed to achieve its goals. Number one, concern with what it referred to as the practical problems of democracy and with the scientific study of people, example, values, motivation, and maladjustments, as well as the application of social science and knowledge and technique to to every aspect of democratic life. The Ford Foundation institutionalized the Behavioral Science Division. It engaged the institution building in a number of related areas as well. Two, between 1951 and 1957, the Behavioral Sciences Division invested over $23 million in individual scholars, graduate departments, research institutes, and professional associations who shared its special commitments. Statistics regarding the Foundation's Foreign Area Fellowship Program illustrates its influential impact on political science research. Statistics will demonstrate just how successful this program has been in strengthening American higher education. Of the 984 former fellows, 550 hold faculty positions in 181 colleges and universities in 38 states. Some 29 university employed 5 or more fellows, and 10 universities have employed 10 or more. In addition to academic and teaching careers, 82 former fellows are now in government service, 38 are now in philanthropic or nonprofit organizations, and 45 are in business or professions. Many former fellows have added to our knowledge of the non Western world through the publication of results of research. Altogether, they have published some 373 books and over 3,000 articles and short monographs. Moreover, they have edited or contributed to another 516 volumes. Three, in order to further transform the research, orientation, and social functionality of political science into an empirical discipline, the foundation not only provided support for individual scholars, established and supported research institutions, it also engaged in the reorientation of professional journals, the utilization of intermediary organizations, and the training of upcoming scholars in the in the method, methodology of behavioralism. Four, the foundation encouraged and supported the creation of a number of programs designed to develop behavioral political theory in places such as the University of Chicago, Columbia University, and University of Michigan. Furthermore, it issued a variety of grants to research institutes like the Bureau of Applied Social Research at Columbia University, the National Opinion Research Center at the University of Chicago, the Russell Sage Foundation, the Center for Advanced Study in the Behavioral Sciences in Palo Alto, and the Social Science Research Council. The grant to Russell Sage was especially significant since it helped create two different sorts of institutional niches for behaviorally oriented researchers. It financed the appointment of postdoctoral scholars to residencies and operating agencies or professional schools, many of which had not been previously exposed to empirical political science. It also provided funds for the appointment of empirical political scientists to faculty positions, thus facilitating the addition at these scholars to the staffs of many universities. Five, a large part of the literature of the behavioral political science revolution resulted from research committees funded by the foundation. For example, the Committee on Political Behavior distributed $340,000 in research support for individual researchers concerned with American governmental processes at the federal, state, and municipal levels. Some 15 landmark books in political science were published under the aegis, AEGIS, of this committee between 1952 and 1959. And lastly, six, the foundation also funded the Committee on Comparative Politics. This committee was designed to generate updated information and practical knowledge about underdeveloped and emerging nations whose policy and or systems of government and uncongenial or incompatible with the United States interests. The body of information generated by the committee was also to be used for the propagandistic purposes as well, to demonstrate the superiority of American capitalism, economic developmental approaches, and public policies. Moreover, the committee generated a number of area specialists who could provide valuable information regarding previously under-researched regions and countries to government officials and corporate leaders. The schematically brief history presented here of a representative institution of the moneyed interest, the Ford Foundation, gives some indication of how these interests can do subtly but powerfully influence the agenda and orientation, not only of the social sciences, but of any number of important academic research and applied fields, including the natural sciences. This history also indicates that intellectual discourse, the generation and application of knowledge, can be and is shaped in ways favorable to ruling elite interests and in ways unobserved by the public or certain target populations, such as the African American community. When we come back, we'll be talking about education for servitude, corporate philanthropy, and the shaping of Black higher education. And right after that, we'll talk about foundations and think tanks, the selling of Newt Gingrich in the Republican Party in 1994. So we getting there, family. We are getting there. I'm gonna just end here because I don't want to bore you. You know what I mean? This is a great book. It's a lot of detail in this book, and he's getting to it. Right now, he's just getting into the policy making part. But once he gets out of here, he gonna take right off and he gonna go in again because there's still a lot of accountability on our part. But at the same time, we don't want to be unaware of what our opponents are doing or what the colonizers do. With that being said, I hope that your today is great and may your tomorrow be greater. Race first at all times, family, and at all times, race first. Hotep.